evidence of humans donning helmets dates all the way back to 2300 BC. Back then, helmets were mostly used for combat, but it didn't take long before the pioneers of motorcycling recognized some sturdy headgear could also be handy in the event of a crash. While motorcycle and helmet technology have advanced to levels beyond our ancestors' greatest aspirations, the evolution of motorcycle helmet laws has been a bit more complicated. Helmet laws differ massively across the globe. But here in the US, it is even more fragmented state by state. So what gives? Why are helmet laws so complicated? And where did they come from? Some say it all starts with Lawrence of Arabia. The iconic film Lawrence of Arabia was based on a true story about the life of T.E. Lawrence, a British Army officer and writer who rose to legendary status due to his involvement in the Arab Revolt in the early 1900s. T.E. Lawrence was seen as a British national hero, and his tragic death in a motorcycle accident in 1935 kicked off some major studies about head injuries due to crashing. Dr. Hugh Carnes treated T.E. Lawrence personally while he was in the hospital, and he became the top researcher in exploring how motorcycle helmets could save more lives if riders would actually wear them. His studies were so compelling that in 1941, the British Army mandated that all dispatch riders must wear crash helmets, and the US Army followed suit with its own mandate that very same year. Of course, the military can and will impose many rules on its soldiers, but making motorcycle helmets mandatory for a civilian population? Well, that is a much more difficult task. And it wasn't one the US government was ready to entertain until the 1960s. While the economy and population were booming post-World War II, so were vehicle-related injuries and fatalities. In 1960, 90,000 Americans died due to unintended injuries, with 41% of those deaths due to traffic incidents. Both the US House of Representatives and the Senate unanimously voted through the National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act, and President Johnson signed it into law in 1966. It was a truly bipartisan effort and has been extremely effective at saving American lives. This law established the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, aka NHTSA, and ushered in most of the vehicle safety standards that we still see today. Airbag systems, seat belts, infant car seats, and yes, even a mandate for motorcycle helmet laws. The 1966 Safety Act was effective at compelling 22 states to adopt helmet laws as early as 1967. And by 1975, 47 out of 50 states had a motorcycle helmet law on the books. Why was the Safety Act so successful in persuading states to adopt helmet laws? Well, for the state governments, it was either get in compliance with the Safety Act or lose out on a substantial amount of federal funding for their highway systems. For most states, this was a no-brainer, and they pushed through their own state helmet laws to retain those funds. But 1975 would turn out to be a pivotal year, because that's when the 3 states refusing to adopt motorcycle helmet laws would unravel all of this helmet-wearing progress. California, Utah, and Illinois were facing serious financial sanctions from the Department of Transportation due to their lack of helmet laws. So, members of Congress from those states helped push through amendments that curtailed the DOT's power to enact those sanctions. Those amendments opened the floodgates for all state governments to roll back their helmet laws. For the several decades since, many states have been on a confusing journey of repealing, reenacting, and revising their motorcycle helmet laws. For better or worse, the splintering of helmet laws state by state has actually allowed us to study the effectiveness of wearing a helmet. And after almost 40 years of comparing the data, the findings are pretty clear. Studies conclude that head injuries are the leading cause of death in motorcycle crashes, and that wearing a motorcycle helmet reduces the risk of fatality by 37 to 42%. And riders who do survive an accident without wearing a helmet are 3 times more likely to suffer a traumatic brain injury. It also turns out, when you make something into a law, it's a pretty good incentive for people to obey. NHTSA reported in 2020 that 94% of motorcyclists in a universal helmet law state choose to wear a helmet, compared to only 60% in non-mandatory states. For states that choose to roll back and repeal their helmet laws, the uptick in fatalities could be enormous. For instance, Kentucky saw a 50% increase in fatalities, and Louisiana saw a 100% increase in fatalities after repealing their laws. The evidence heavily suggests that helmets and helmet laws can save lives. But most rider advocacy groups opposed to helmet laws don't argue against this.
Should our state have a law requiring motorcyclists to wear helmets?
Michael Infanson is a lobbyist for the motorcycle rights organization Abate.
It's the aversion of the government telling an American citizen what they can and can't do with their own freedom.
Whether or not helmets and helmet laws save lives isn't the point for them. What they argue for is personal freedom.
For State Senator Ben Hansen, his bill to repeal the helmet requirement for motorcyclists is about personal choice.
Government should allow people to do what they want with their civil liberties, as long as it does not affect the civil liberties of somebody else.
Riding motorcycles is inherently dangerous, yet many of us choose to do it anyway. Each of us has our own unique tolerance for risk and how much we're willing to take on. For riders opposed to helmet laws, it is their position that the government shouldn't be making that determination for us. They argue that each of us, individually, must make that judgment all on our own. The state I live in has a universal helmet law in place, and so yes, I follow the rules and I wear one. But even in past years living in states without restrictions, I still chose to wear a helmet then. While I understand that there are risks every time I throw a leg over a motorcycle, it doesn't mean I can't try my best to mitigate some of them. While there can be no 100% guarantee of safety while riding a bike, wearing a helmet and protective gear is one small way that I believe I can nudge a few of those statistics in my favor. Do you think helmet laws have helped protect you on the ride? Or are they an unwelcome overreach? It's a debate as old as the helmet laws themselves, and one that isn't going to be over anytime soon. If you want to learn even more about motorcycle helmet laws, head on over to Common Tread at RevZilla.com to see my full write-up on the story. And no matter what your choice is, to wear a helmet or not, I hope you stay safe and you keep it on too.